with Jalen Wright, obviously, we saw early, in a limited sample size, high per carry average. It's been 10 carries, 8 yards the last couple of weeks. What has led to that has been primarily a blocking issue from what you've seen on tape, or something Jalen could have done?
A couple times there was some blocking things that we could have executed better. Sometimes we're getting loaded fronts that were hard looks to run into. But overall, I think that he's been doing a great job. And like the ebb and flows of all seasons, I mean, you have some weeks where you're high hitting, some weeks where it's a little more gritty to gain the yards. So we think overall we're in the right spot we need to be with stuff, and we're looking forward to this week, getting back to some success.
How have you seen Devon Achane handle his increased workload? He's already surpassed last year's carry total. He might double last year's receptions total. How have you seen him handle all that?
I think him, like all the guys, just whatever the game requires, he's ready for it, and he's done a great job with everything, just making sure he's ready to go for the season. I mean, your hardest year as a player is your rookie year because there's so much transition unknown. So for him, he's been great. I know he handles everything like professional, and he's been helping us win. So we're excited for everything he's done.
Frank, I've got a Tua question. On the touchdown to Tyreek, we see Tua roll to his left. As he's rolling, he tucks the ball. He checks back to see if anybody's coming. He uses his legs to buy time, and he throws to Tyreek. I thought that was a significant play. Am I making too much out of that? Did that show some learning by tucking the ball and using his feet? Did that show progression?
Yeah, I think it showed awareness to where he was in the pocket, making sure that the space to defenders, the ball was first, and then obviously working into a scramble drill, and then the guys executing was awesome. Yeah, I think it's like Chris, in those moments, the big thing is like you see the growth is what do you learn, and I think that was a great moment for us to extend to play, and it worked out really in our favor. So each week's a learning lesson, and what do we learn?
I'm sorry to interrupt. What do you tell him about? Because it seems like he has a pretty good clock in his head.
Yep.
So some of it is intuitive and instinctual, but to add to that, what can you tell him about when to get out of there, and try to extend it?
Well, I think a lot of it comes into the feel in the pocket, that's where you're at, and your timing, your progression. So you kind of feel as you're starting your drop. I mean, the longer you're in it, the more you realize you can feel stuff, and you create space when you break it. There is a feel to it, or sometimes you're getting back there and you feel the distinct color of the opposite team in your face. It helps when it's a black jersey coming right at you versus our white jerseys. So, but I think what he's done is a great job of, like you said, knowing where I'm at in my progression, where do I need to get the ball, and then when you break the pocket and you move, where are my people at, and how are we distributing towards it? Because that's the big thing, playing with Roethlisberger in college. I mean, it was like constant that back and forth, and you have it like we learned how to block for him because it all worked down. Our guys learn, okay, hey, if he has to vacate the pocket, like you saw in the touchdown, how do we get in phase to it? So a lot of growth from last week for the guys, and just working together and understanding the pass game.
That's the real reason you guys wear white all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Makes it easier to see.
What percentage of time would you say the reception occurs after an altered route? Like, in other words, the guy comes back to the ball or something. And what percentage? I know it's hard to say, but just so I get a sense.
It depends on the nature of scramble and where you're at. Are you in the open field versus like down kind of in the red? Because then as the field dissipates, you have less. You have different areas that you try and move to get in phase with the quarterback. So I mean, in the open field, you'd say, hey, it's maybe more of the intermediary routes where you get down in the red. It's back pylon, front pylon type stuff as you vacate the pocket.
We're having we talk so much about the big play, but now there's the focus on efficiency and Tua and the completion percentage. Is this just the next evolution for this offense? And what is it about Tua that helps him complete 70? What is he at now?
A lot.
73% of his passes.
Yeah. I think it comes down to like the as you're attacking the defense, like how are they trying to defend? And as they try and defend parts of the field or different players, it's about the distribution of the other guys. So if they're going to condense into a part of the field, that means they're vulnerable in others. As you can see, it's like whether you're attacking it through levels, or you're attacking it through distribution across the field, or you're attacking it with width. So that's where it's like you can look at, or if they want to take away the middle, you work aside. All right, they want to take away the outside lanes, you then have the middle. All right, if they want to take away, the pocket and bring more people, then they're vulnerable pretty much everywhere through proper distribution. I think that is when you look at, for us last year, our ability to have deep scoring plays, explosive plays, and stuff like that. Well, what's the defensive response? Is that now, okay, well, we'll sit back and maybe we'll devote 4 people for 2, a lot of the times. Well, when that happens, now there's matchups in other spots. So for us to be able to work as a unit and distribute the ball, it helps get everyone open collectively. So when you're doing that stuff, I think it just comes down to, like, how do they want to play defense? How do they believe in defending the field? How do they have force patterns, coverage patterns? It all works together as far as our build, and connects with Tua and his ability to play through it with timing.
Now, he's always had the accuracy. Is this just now diagnosing ability, probably stepping up a level just because he knows the offense?
I think it comes into his preparation, and like, you can only do these things when you build through it and you work your core concepts, core principles over and over again. And then that way you have the connection between the guys, the quarterback, timing, the line, trying to set the pocket, like everyone together, knowing that if you want to play that way, it comes from practice and getting all those things down. So I think that's the big thing, is his ability to take in the information, the practice from our core principles, and then implement it. And he's been doing a great job, just because, the way he plays is really holds into his progressions and reading it through.
Fred, what were the keys to keeping Crosby quiet last Sunday?
Don't let him have a chance to get involved. So when does he make plays? When you give him opportunities to be at the point of attack, you give him opportunities to have one-on-ones, when you give him opportunities to do what he does. So for us, it was, you look at them, we were not going to let him tone set for their defense, because when he can set the tone, they feed off his energy. So for our run plan, we were going to make sure that we either had 2 people on him or we were running away from him. And if we were in the passing game, we're going to make sure that we had protection towards him. Either if we had to move away, there's someone chipping him. If we're in play pass, it was either 2 tight ends going to him, or we had a tackle in the back. And then it's just, when you do that and you're playing a certain way, it's on the guys, and then they understand the plan. And then now, it goes into execution. And it was great that they understood the plan, making sure that we're going to run one way, and then, he's over there, you go the other way. So there were a couple times where I'm sure you guys saw, we'd be lined up, there he is, go the other way. So it's all on the guys. They understood the plan. And when you have an elite player like that, that's where coaching, we can create a plan that, minimizes impact, and then the guys got to take it to the field. So it was a fun one.
Quick follow-up, if I may. How would you assess Kendall's role in accomplishing that goal?
It was great. I think he, like all the guys, he executed what we needed to get done. There's always plays that you like, hey, there's more meat on the bone. We could have been a little bit better, but overall, executing with his experience, is how professional he is about everything he goes. So, we were lucky when we got him here the first year, and he's helped us be successful, and he's a great teammate.
Fred, were you in New Orleans when Teron Armstead was 22, 23 years old?
I was there when we drafted him, yes.
How is the Teron Armstead of 33 different?
It's funny you say that, because he always, when he was young, you knew, like, he exuded confidence for a guy you thought he had been in the NFL. But man, he was just, what did he run at the combine, like 4.6? He was just extremely, athletic, I mean, he ran like a toss crack in college where he outran the back into the end zone. It was like, man, what are you doing? And you just see his growth, his perspective, his experience. I mean, he's been in huge games when he was a rookie. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, he didn't play his rookie year till later in the year because he was working on his stuff and developing. So his growth from where he is today, he's a good friend. It's awesome.
For a philosophical question, sorry, Dan. You guys have right before the half, it's second and 10 at the 35, 2 seconds left. And I guess there's the difference between coaching scared and coaching normally. Why not take a knee there? What was the goal? You know, with Tua, you're kind of exposing him to a pass. Right? What's the thinking there? And is that thinking developed during the game or during the week? How do you handle that?
Well, I think each week when you look at your situations into half-end a game, they're very unique. And when you have an opportunity to take advantage of something you see that they do, you know, ultimately our goal is to be efficient and score points. And however we get that done. So last year we were able to get explosive plays. This year we're doing it through efficiency of what the defense has been providing. That doesn't mean we're not trying to get the ball down the field, but that end of half, like, we're trying to score. Like, especially with what we saw, we thought there was an opportunity to try to get the ball down the field, or at worst, draw, you know, potential penalty with the distribution of the concept. So, I mean, you could take a knee and say it's done, or you can be aggressive and try and make something happen because, like, you guys go back to the Charger game in 22. We were aggressive right before the half, got a penalty, and we kicked the point. The field goal ended up winning the game for us.
You were the assistant offensive line coach, and so did you work with Armstead?
Oh, yeah.
After practice?
Yeah, every day.
What do you work on with a young lineman like that to help him get where he is now?
I put him in a bean bag and sit down and just listen to all the wise things I have to say and then absorb it through osmosis. No, it was, I mean, he is a worker. He is a worker. It was him, Senio Calamente, and Bryce Harris were the three guys every day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We worked on, you know, it's really a lot of things is there's two positions on the football field that have challenging movements. It's defensive backs and offensive linemen. You're doing your job backwards. So it's learning how to control your body in your movements, because if you don't move and load for power, or don't move to load to carry yourself, you expose edges of your movement. So like an offensive tackle, you're the width of the pocket. You know, if you're not in balance, you're exposing a soft edge of your body that gives a beeline to the quarterback. So for him, he was so explosive. It was just, and we were asking him to pass that different. It was teaching him how that angle, how it plays out, right? Now the rush patterns of the defender, how you need to play. Run game, here's where it is. And he was just, him and Senio and Bryce were machines. I mean, they just want every day, want to get better. And it was awesome because Bryce ended up playing us for us in New Orleans. Had I think it was 6 or 7 year career. Senio ended up leaving and signing a big contract in Houston. He played all 5 spots, and then Tehran's been Tehran. So it's success isn't by chance. It comes from hard work, and he's earned it.
Frank, can you detail? Thanks. Can you detail the adjustments that go into a second meeting with a divisional team? Like Raheem had a great quote yesterday about how the Dolphins kind of exposed in the run game the way the Patriots set the edge in that first meeting. He said they haven't really done it that way since. So kind of just adjustments. It kind of fascinated me, just how you have to adjust so much from one time facing a team to another within the same season.
Yeah, you do have some familiarity with the divisional opponents, but yet at the same time, it's like, how have they been playing the last couple of weeks, and how they're trying to defend, and, you know, what little things do you notice? And it'll be on us the challenge to, do it again and to maximize what we're trying to do. And it comes down to the guys to, you know, as we adjust our plan and try and do some different things, you know, understanding why and understanding what the defense, because I think that's the biggest goal for us is each week is this is how the defense is trying to defend. Here's what they believe in. Here's how they try and stop the run. Here's how they try and stop the passing game. All right. Here's how they try and have their coverage variables. Here's how they're going to try and confuse you. All right. So you have to take this information of what the defense is and how do they want to defend and make it simple. So that way it's like you can create overriding patterns so the player can bank and then take it into the game for execution, because it's defenses, because in game, if they do something that you don't anticipate, that's where the adjustment is, and that's where you carry the volume of your plan to make sure that, they're doing this a little bit different, so let's go to this concept, or let's get to this formation because it's given maybe us an advantage. So each week when you come back and play a divisional team, it's a challenge because they know you as much as you know them, and we're sure New England will have a great plan for us, and we're excited to compete with them this weekend.
So you have two very competent backup safeties, obviously, with Marcus and Elijah. You've told us not to sleep on Elijah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like at this point Jordan Poyer playing every snap alongside Javon gives you the best chance to win, or is that a decision that you've revisited this week?
Well, I think each and every week, right, whether it's players or coaches, we're all earning the right to be where we're at. Like, nothing is given. The same reason I have my nameplate slides out by my office. So I have the utmost faith in Jordan and Javon, the way they work together, their connectivity. So at this point, they're certainly our starters. But I love Elijah, I love Marcus May, and I know if called upon, they'll be ready to come out there and execute their job at a high level.
What would Jordan have to do to sort of improve from a coverage standpoint?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know exactly what his numbers are or where in the narrative that he's failing in terms of coverage, because there's so many other things that he does in terms of just getting people in the right positions that he doesn't get credited for. So there is a cerebral part of the game, particularly at that position, which is incredibly important, and he has graduate levels honors in that.
I've got a philosophical question that was debated during the game in the press box. So Javon Holland, when Gardner Minshew runs and he sticks the ball out and gets the first down, looked like Javon had a shot at Gardner Minshew, could take a hit. There were some people saying he should have taken that hit to prevent the first down. Others were saying, no, he's a quarterback, you would have gotten a flag.
Yeah.
What should he have done in that situation, and do you think that through to that level?
Yeah, it's certainly always a bang play when you're in that predicament, and we understand the precautions that are taken to protect the quarterbacks. As a defensive guy, I always err on the side of aggression. So, in my mind, take the hit.
When you took this job, this offense was the most electric downfield passing offense, scoring 30-plus points in every game. Now they have this new approach of sustained drive, 15, 16-play drives every game, it seems like. Does that change the way you call your defense compared to an offense that would be that explosive one we saw last year?
No, I don't think so. I think however our offense is playing the game, as long as the ball continues to end up in the end zone, we're happy, regardless of how it gets there. And ultimately, whether we're playing a 40-play game or a 65 to 70-play game, the goal is the same, is to keep them out and limit their points to as little as possible.
What are some points of emphasis for Cam Smith to, at some point, fulfill his potential?
Yeah, I think the points of emphasis for him are just mastering your technique and fundamentals while you're continuing to learn the intricate details of the defense. As a young player, like I said this before with him, when he's had his lapses, it's been because of technique and fundamental flaws. It'll never be an ability because he's disadvantaged from a physical attribute standpoint with him, right? He can run, he has length, and he is smart. He's a smart kid, so all he needs is just reps. He needs reps at all these things where he's making mistakes, learns from those mistakes, and doesn't repeat those mistakes. So for him, it's just a matter of getting him on the field as much as possible.
You didn't face Drake May in the first game. So he's kind of defining who he is in his first year. What do you see from him? As not only he's shown no, he's not backing off running the ball, obviously. Yeah. What do you see from him?
The thing you see on tape is just he doesn't lack confidence, right? He trusts his ability, trusts his arm. And the thing with all these new crop of young quarterbacks is when plays break down, they have the ability to create extended plays, right? And run both outside of the pocket and down the field, and then run the throw too. So we got to be cognizant of that. Again, this is not me saying he's Josh Allen, but you kind of got to approach him like Josh Allen a little bit, where you're trying to funnel him certain directions and try to contain his rush ability as much as you can.
Anthony, yesterday when we were talking with Achan, he was describing how effective he's been catching balls out of the backfield. And he expressed some surprise that defenses haven't clamped down on that more than they have. Not that he's complaining.
Probably shouldn't talk much about it then.
But I'm wondering from a defensive coordinator's perspective, when a back comes out of the backfield and has that kind of space, is that more a product often of a blown assignment or defenses focusing on the guys on the outside?
Yeah, I think particularly when you're talking about our offense, you devote so much attention to those guys on the outside and the speed they have. So what that requires you to do is obviously play with some air, and you're willing to give up some of those underneath routes. Oftentimes that's a check down to the back. When that check down is to a guy that runs a 4.3 or whatever Devon runs, then that's problematic. So you got to concede something, right? There is no perfect defensive call. There is no perfect defense. And if you're facing the athletic skill set that we have on our offensive side of the ball, then usually that's the one you're going to give up.
Some recent struggles covering top tight ends. The Patriots, another team with a good one in Hunter Henry. Have you given any consideration to using Jalen Ramsey on tight ends, especially maybe against teams that don't have a top flight receiver on the outside?
Yeah, of course. That was certainly discussed last week. I think where we fell short last week was when they had the change in coordinator. Really, they changed philosophically some of the things they were doing with him. So when those discussions came up, well, prior to with the previous coordinator with Getsy, on third down in particular, Brock was chipping a lot. So the one thing you'd hate to do is you'd have Ramsey on Brock Bowers and he's chipping and going to the flat or something like that. That changed. In game, you'd like to do some things, but there's multiple pieces that have to move in order to make some of those changes. It's usually not just that easy. So we're certainly accounting for Hunter Henry. We know the athlete he is. We've played against him. We feel comfortable with our matchups, and we know that he's certainly there's a comfort level there with the Drake May kid, and we have to account for that.
Benito Jones seemed to be a lot more of a factor in the pass rush last Sunday. What did you see from him?
It's funny you say that because early in the season when we were having some of our run issues, I told Benito, I don't care if you get 0 sacks on the season. I need you to grind these run blocks out. And now he's turned into Warren Sapp all of a sudden. So I don't know if he's just not listening to me. No, I joke around. But I think Benito, just like all of our guys, the challenge is just to get better weekly. And I think that's what you're seeing out of him. There's ability there to both impact the game in the run and the pass game. And it was pretty cool last week to kind of see those flashes. Now we just got to turn it to actual sacks and not pressures.
John Robinson seems to be chopping up offensive tackles. The last 2 weeks, he's abusing some guys. What's the difference for him?
It's just reps and confidence, right? I think Coach Crow and Coach Ryan are doing a tremendous job with him, and as well as just the players too. I mean, he's always talking to Calais, Bradley, Chubb. I see talking to him all the time. When Jalen was out, when Jalen back, Jalen's been helping him too. So there's been a collective effort in trying to impart as much wisdom in a very short period of time with this kid. And to his credit, he's just taking it all in and just going out and attacking that on the football field. And I think you're starting to see the residuals of all that now.
In terms of last year, you had opportunity to talk to the team about a head coaching opening. Mm-hmm. What did you learn from that experience, and how did it help you grow and to become the defensive coordinator that you are now?
Yeah, I learned from that experience, one, that it was certainly nothing to be nervous about or have any anxiety about. Ultimately, I'm just going to be myself, and whether or not they want me as their head coach, that's up to them. In terms of how has it prepared me for this, I don't necessarily know that it has. I am so entrenched in doing what's necessary for the Miami Dolphins to win, and whatever happens as a result of that, it happens. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. I just want to do right by these players and do everything we can to try to make a run and try to find a way into the show.
We've got a pass rush question. Last week, and I don't know if I'm making too much of this, I thought I saw some really good pass rush, keeping the quarterback contained. I thought on Agba's sack, he's coming at the right tackle spot. Calais is at the left tackle spot. Sealer is in the middle taking on a double team, and then kind of Brooks comes in and helps clean up. But am I seeing that right? Did you guys have a few rushes where you kind of bracketed people, the quarterback, and will that help with Drake May? Is that the approach you want?
Our rush plan, we charge Coach Clark and Coach Crow and myself, it's a collaborative effort week in and week out and how we want to attack just the space and what they're trying to do from a protection standpoint and who the quarterback is. So when you have a guy like Drake May, obviously, he's going to go through his progression and he's going to be quick to run, we're always trying to make sure that we can funnel him places he doesn't necessarily want to go to. I think there's times in the season where we've been successful in doing that. I think, the second time we played the Bills, we were much better against Josh Allen than we were in game one. There were times I thought we fell short, right? I didn't think we did a good enough job versus Kyler Murray. So it's certainly a point of emphasis this week against this guy and who he is, but it's certainly something we spend a lot of time working on.
Now that he's been here for a week and not just a new arrival, are you anticipating using Dotson on defense a little bit, or is the plan still to go with Jordan?
Yeah, I love TD, man. I love what he brings to this defense and obviously just the experience he has. Unfortunately, right, you can only play 2, maybe 3 backers at a time, and I feel real confident in the guys we have out there playing right now. So, but if he's called upon, the one thing I know is he's ready. He's ready to go in and he'll play at a high level for us.
Walker, there's been a shift or change in this defense. I wouldn't necessarily credit it all to him, but is it partly just a communication standpoint or the assignment that has helped you guys take that next level, especially from a run stopping standpoint?
Yeah, I think you think of Walk, like even prior to the season, I think he was, him and David, he was dipping at David's heels the entire time. Then he got hurt in training camp, and that kind of set him back a little bit. So I love that he's out there. He's a very calming influence on the defense and the guys around him. And from the Mike backer position, that is invaluable, right? He can help put out some fires that are sometimes created out there by guys that don't necessarily know what to do in that particular moment. So I think that, and obviously he's played a bunch of meaningful snaps. Like he instinctively knows what offenses are trying to do and how they're trying to attack us. So his FBI and obviously his overall just confidence in the defense and schematics just helps us all.
Does he ever ask you DC pointers?
What's that?
Does he ever ask you DC pointers to use in this role with the?
Yeah, it's funny is as I talked to him obviously a lot about the X's and O's. Jalen Ramsey is another guy who I think at one point, whenever his time is done, would like to coach high school football. So I talk a lot of X's and O's with him too, and I love those guys, man. Just because the more you know about the game, you can start to figure out when you can take your chances because big picture what's happening around you and how offenses are trying to attack, and it allows you to, if you can make 1 or 2 extra plays a game, that could be the difference between winning and losing.
With that third quarter stop you guys make on the Raiders' first possession, I'm wondering how big that was. They have the 10-6, it's 10-6. They had that field goal. Do you guys talk about that first possession and how big was that stop? Your offense goes down 97 yards and scored. How big was that stop?
Yeah, huge. We talk every week about starting fast and finishing stronger, right? So whether that's the beginning of the game, end of half, start of the second half, end of game. To me, all those times are critical points for an offense and for a defense. So it's funny because all the time they're like, who's starting? Like, I don't care who starts. Who's finishing? That's what I want to know. Who's finishing plays? Like, who's finishing tackles? Like, that ultimately is what's most important to me.
I'm always curious. It is one of my favorite positions in football. What makes, or how do you identify a good gunner?
Wow. Number one, let me back up. Take the talent out of it, okay? You need somebody that is just tenacious would be the best word I would put on it. You can never be out of the play. And that's what makes the great ones, where you may think you have them at the line of scrimmage, then they win down the field. You may think you're okay at the line of scrimmage, you think you're in good shape down the field, and now all of a sudden that guy spins off and still finds a way to get involved in the tackle. So number one, you got to be a tenacious son of a gun. If you have that, along with the talent, because we're saying that the talent is what it is. But when you are never out of a play, that's what, when we look to evaluate guys, and most importantly, when we're playing against guys, and you see that, it could be a long day.
So
Is it like toughness or speed? Obviously, is a prerequisite. Toughness is a prerequisite.
Speed, transition from speed to power. You're going to get people on you. It's a little bit like rushing the passer. You got to have a counter. Now they're going to jump set you and take that outside away. What is your counter off of that? Your inside move. Do you have a counter off your inside move? Can you be flat? Can you stem? Can you stick? So there's a lot of things, and then you got to get into the hand play. So it's not an easy position to play, and I'm glad you brought it up. It is hard. In most cases, you're getting double teamed, and it's a hard way to make a living. But the great ones affect the play even when they are double teamed.
How are you feeling currently about if and when Blake Ferguson could return?
Again, just playing the process of the National Football League. He's going through his stuff, which number one is what has to get taken care of. We got to make sure he's where he needs to be, and then we'll worry about and get ready for the football part of it.
I'm going to ask you how Channing Tindall has done on special teams this year, Danny.
Actually done really well the last couple of games in particular. Had a couple tackles in the Rams game on Monday night, and then was in good shape last week. We had a little bit of a misfit on one of the kickoffs where we had a chance to maybe get a little bit better field position for ourselves, and because Channing was in great shape. The guy made a good cut off of a little bit of a misfit outside of him, but happy with where Channing is right now.
So the Cowboys took a 64-yard field goal off the board. Obviously, there's sort of strict strategy and analytics behind that, but I feel like there was a time where that never would have happened. Yeah. How have you seen that change, and are you surprised that a 64-yarder comes off the board or not in today's game?
Well, I'm going to back it up. The idea of kicking a 64-yarder not at the end of the half or the end of the game, 10 years ago, that wasn't even brought up. You wouldn't even think about that. So I think the combination of analytics, understanding the situation and making that part of that, we're going to need 2 scores. Let's take it, even though it's a 64-yarder, which again it's not a gimme. But anytime you take points off the board in a 2-score game, it's if it doesn't play out right, that's going to be. It's going to be a topic of conversation.
It's ironic, right? Because teams are going for it on fourth more than ever, even in field goal range, and yet they're also trying extraordinarily long field goals.
Yeah.
I don't know how to align those two things.
Well, again, when you look at the numbers, you're exactly right. You're gaining points, you're giving away field position, you're going for it on fourth down because you're trying to get the 7 as opposed to the 3. So there's a lot of different things that are going into those situations and those decisions, and every game is different. How the game is going. You look at the Steelers and Baltimore, and you're talking about a field goal 1-score game, and then you watch Baltimore a couple weeks earlier, and they're in a almost 40-point shootout against somebody else. So that in of itself, you could have the same team and be playing 2 different games in terms of field position, decision making on fourth down, field goal, punt, even though you're the same group based on the situation and how that game is progressing.
Brendan Schooler has gotten you guys for a couple times now in recent meetings. Is there some extra way to give him more attention, or what can you do against a guy like that?
We give him plenty of attention. Sometimes it's not enough. And again, I always equate it to, when you get really good players. I don't, everybody sort of looks at special teams different, but he's a really good player. When you get really good players on offense and really good players on defense, even though there's a lot of game planning involved around those players, great players still can find ways to make plays. You see it week in and week out. Last week you play Max Crosby. He's a great player. We're getting a lot of bodies on Max Crosby, but if Max Crosby comes out of that game with a sack and 2 tackles for losses, is anybody going to be surprised? No, because he's a great player. So great players find a way, even when you game plan them, to find ways to make plays.
It's been a few weeks now, obviously, without Braxton, and I know things are fluid, but do you feel good about moving forward with obviously Malik on punts and Mostert and Jalen Wright on kickoffs?
Well, again, it's always a weekly thing, and it's we'll play what who's available, what's available, how the game's going. But, obviously losing Braxton was big. He was really having a good year, was really off to a good start. So anytime you lose a player with injury, you hate to see that. But, we're fortunate that we do have some guys that we feel strongly about and their abilities.
Danny, 2 questions about your field goal block team. Their first field goal, you guys have Quentin and Elijah and Saran on their left side. 74 looked like Elijah was coming through, right? And 74 stuck out his leg. You guys double team. Should that have been a penalty or?
That's a hard call. There's penalties that, again, I'm just talking about my opinion. And when you look around the league, there's certain penalties I think that are easier to see for the officials and recognize. Sometimes those edge plays from some of the vantage points of where officials are stationed aren't as easy to see. When you go back and look at the tape, there's always plays that you like, that could have been or should have been. I always look at it as we talked about in the past. I look at it both ways. Whether it's a penalty called on us, if I was the opposite team, would I expect the same call? If they call something on them, would I expect the same thing to be called if it was us? So those are hard decisions, and some of those plays are hard for those guys to see. There's other ones that, in my opinion, aren't that hard, and then they need to be 100% on.
The 22-yard field goal, they're at the 5-yard line. You had Elijah and Marcus May back off. Saran and Cam go straight in. Is that defending against a fake? I don't think I had seen that this season.
It's a call we have based on certain situations in the game.
Danny on the play. Danny on the
I like
play.
your film study though.
This is our special teams coordinator right here.
On the play where Calais came close to blocking the punt and got the penalty. Is there a teaching point there, or just bad luck that it went between his hands?
There is, the angle of where you're playing the ball, and it's a great teaching point because the trajectory of a punt. Here's a great example of where the foot contacted the ball and where Calais was with his hands was a yard. So you got the launch point of the ball off the foot of the punter and a long-armed individual only a yard away in terms of where the hand is on a vertical plane, and the ball clears the hand. Where you got to change that vertical plane to a flatter plane. Correct. So we always talk about out, not up. You're not going to block. You're not going to block going up. You got to be out.
I saw Calais went and talked to Duke Riley on the sideline after that, and that was yeah.
Out, not up.
If I was up on my special teams, I would ask you this question, but has Calais Campbell always been up on teams this year?
Again, that's one of our packages and one of the groups that we play in certain situations and have certain calls based on what's going on in the game. So he has been a part of that.
Snapping on field goal attempts. It says here you cannot directly tackle the long snapper. While contact is not entirely prohibited, you cannot directly hit him, especially to the head or neck immediately after the snap, as he is considered a defenseless player. I feel like that happens all the time. 2 parts. 1, not reviewable, right?
Correct.
Okay. And 2, are there times where it's worth trying? Because it seems like it's happening.
Well, and that's a great point because you look around the league and again, it's called sometimes, and that's one to me that. As big an emphasis that we put on player safety, that's a spot and a position and a visual where that's a call that needs to be 100%. Again, is it worth it? That's one of those situations where if you get away with it and you win the game, it's a good thing. But again, do we want to be? My whole thing is always about what do we want to teach? What am I telling the players? What am I telling my bosses? We don't want to teach something that is a foul, because then when you get called, it's a foul. And there's no complaining. You know what the situation is. You're giving a first down. Or you're given another opportunity from closer. So what do you want to teach? That's where, as long as there's uniformity in the calls and you know what you're going to get, and it's around the league, it's better for the players, and obviously it's better for us as teachers of what can we teach and what can we not teach. To me, you don't want to teach and coach something that, i.e. you read the rule and you're saying this is illegal, why are we putting this in? And then when we get called for it, we have no leg to stand on for complaints.
I was going to ask you with Deshaun Hands. I know you obviously had high expectations of him, but has he even exceeded at all what you expected when he came into the organization?
Absolutely, man. I'll tell you this. He came in Houston Texans preseason 2 on a workout to try to make the team, worked his way up from practice squad. And, I think for him a big part was like getting healthy. Throughout his career, he's kind of had just some ups and downs with freak injuries. And he's strong as an ox, man. He's doing a great job for us. He's versatile. He's a team guy. He shows up every day with his hard hat on, ready to go, man. So fired up about where he's going to. I think he's got even more in the tank.
Also, when I look at Calais Campbell, he seems to be able to shed blocks very well. Do I see that correctly, and why?
Yeah, I mean, well, he's a giant. That helps, He does a great job of getting his hands from the ground to the man, no wasted movement, comes out of his hips. And he's got really good eye control for when the back cuts inside or out, and that helps him with his block release. And he can also dip and slip and stun inside on things, so I think that keeps people on edge. And love where he's going and love what he's doing.
How would you assess Benito's development this year?
Yeah, I think, Benito probably played his best game the other day, for sure. And, he got dinged up a little bit, missed a lot of camp. And I think he's continuing to grow. He's doing a much better job with his pad leverage. I think he's in great shape. He looks a lot different than he did in 220 when we first got him. I think it was 2020. And, fired up about where he's going. Absolutely.
What was the thinking in the move from Healy to Farrell in terms of that spot on the 53?
Yeah, Neil beat him out, man. In practice every day, he worked his tail off. I think he has a great anchor. It took him a couple weeks, I think he was kind of on the street when we got him. And, he flashed in the Rams game. And he got a long way to go. We got to keep his pads down. He's got to continue to come out of his hips and unlock all that power. He's a powerful dude. But that was it, plain and simple.
Coach, this defense asked for so many guys to peel back in the hook zone and play coverage. Do you guys get fired up when that's the call? Like Benito dropping back in the hook zone? That has to be like fun to watch on tape.
Yeah. I don't know if Benito would rather be pass rushing or dropping. I don't know. I think, look, at the end of the day, Coach Weaver does a great job on third down and all down, scheming things up. And I think what's really cool is we got a room of selfless guys. And if dropping's what we want them to do, they're going to get it done to the best of their ability. If it's stunting, playing the run, picking guys. He was moving on that one, man.
I want to know, what's that practice look like when you're trying to install that in?
Yeah, well, it starts in the meeting, the first thing, and then you just – a lot of that stuff we've been doing since training camp, believe it or not. So I think Coach Weaver's philosophy of kind of force-feeding these guys, then you get to it and you put the drop in and we start talking about matching routes, and guys like Sealer want to know, okay, well, who are the go-to guys or what am I looking at? And the DB coaches like to assist as well. So, they enjoy it and they work hard at it.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Calais has 4 years on you.
Yeah, I'm 34, he's 38.
Yeah, what's that like? I mean, you see that sometimes where a coach is younger than a player, but what's it like for you two guys?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I came in, I think I got to Miami, I was 27. So instantly I'd already had a few guys. Calais specifically, it's no different. He wants to be coach the hardest. That's the thing I admire most about him. We got a lot of things in common. Our kids are around the same age, and he just wants to be coach hard. He takes the coaching, he applies it. He's got great energy every day. I joke him all the time. I say, man, you'd have a future in this coaching thing, when he's done. But grateful to have him, love coaching him, and one of a kind.
When you suggest that maybe someday he'd become a coach, what's his reaction?
Yeah, I think he's good at a lot of things, and ultimately, I don't know if you get paid coaching D-line like you do playing D-line, but he's a guy that, you always want to come around no matter what happens for young players and their development. And he's got an innate ability to he understands the game and he's seen so much. He's seen every type of offense, every pass rush game you put in. So those things are unique qualities that I think, he'd be great at. But he'd be great at almost anything.
A question about did I cut somebody off?
Yeah, no worries. Go ahead.
A question about the human side of the game. When Peely gets cut, I know that you're a reason that he's here. He told me that, you guys had a relationship, maybe back to USC, but did you talk to him, and how does that go for you?
Yeah, it's to me, it's whether I was with a player prior in college or not, it is a human element. It's tough. It's a business. And ultimately, he's a guy that works his tail off, and to his credit, he then bumped right on an active roster. And that's what you hope for guys. I tell the guys at the start of camp, the goal is that every guy in that room, we hopefully can do enough as a unit to develop guys to get opportunities. And it also means that other guys on your unit, like a Neil Farrell, are doing well. So, and when they're on other teams, you root for them, until you play them. Absolutely. So, it was tough for him, and there's a human element, but, you stay friends with those guys forever, for sure.
I want to ask about with Calais, like when you're teaching young guys, I guess, the best qualities about him, what do you tell them to mirror that he does best?
Yeah, I'd say his process, for sure, and his intent. Those are the two things. Like, yes, there's elite athleticism and there's strength and power and all those things to his game. But this guy comes in every day and he's in the meeting like he's out there on Sunday. I mean, there's an energy, there's a juice about him. He loves it. And so that passion for the game is something that makes him stand out. And then his day-to-day process to, play as versatile and have the longevity that he's had, be able to play 1, 3, 5, 9, and then do it for so many years. So I'd say the intent, he goes about his business and his day-to-day process.
Coach, earlier you're talking about Sealer being so inquisitive about what's going on with the passing concepts when he is dropping. I'm curious if that meticulousness was evident right away with him when you first got here with Zach back in, I think, 2019. Was that evident right away for you with him?
Yeah, I mean, I came in 20, so it was I think he might have played 4 or 5 games in 19. I'd say you knew he was as smart then, you could tell, but it was different because of the room that unit was. We had so many guys in that room. So Zach wasn't raising his hand, talking. It was more after the meeting. But quickly, maybe 4 or 5 games into 20, the first game I think we played New England game 1. He maybe played on goal line and short yardage, not much. And then by game 4 or 5, the more and more he started playing, he's asking more questions. And you figured out pretty quick, this guy knows what's going on. And sometimes you can give a player too much information, I think, that can make him play slow. Zach's the type of player that wants all the information, and he can not only use it to his advantage, but also the guys he's lined up with on the line throughout the game.
Is there anything in particular that you tell pass rush when they're going up against a rookie quarterback?
Well, one that can move like this, we definitely got to be in tune to that. If you're talking about May specifically, I think he moves extremely well in the pocket. I think he's got 240-something scramble yards on 24 attempts. And, those games he's played, and he can throw the ball down the field. He's got a good internal clock. So rush lanes are at a premium. We've been fortunate enough to play a lot of scrambling quarterbacks specifically. So I think that's a great quality he has. He can throw the ball down the field, and it's going to be a heck of a challenge for us.
Regarding the pass rush, I was telling Weave, it seemed like I saw some good snapshots of pass rush last week and keeping Gardner Minshew kind of corralled, and on the Agba sack, Agba's on the right tackle side, Calais on the left tackle, and Zach Sealer's holding a double team in the middle. Do you always want your guys pushing the pocket into the quarterback's lap, or is it sometimes read and react and kind of feel out the situation?
No, you're right on it. Middle push is critical because a lot of times when these edge guys, when you want your edge guys humming, winning their one-on-one, if there's no middle push, then it just creates all this space that they can not only, yes, run, but also see the field, and there's throwing lanes galore. So it's a critical piece. And it's different each week based on who you're playing and the type of protections they have and the things they're doing. But absolutely, it's a big piece of it.
How important is getting Zach back?
Big time. I will say I thought Deshaun Hand stepped in and gave us some great snaps, and some of the other guys elevated their game. But absolutely, I'm a lot better coach with Zach on the field.
So it's always good to have multiple good players at the same position. Has Rob Jones earned the right to continue as your left guard when Isaiah Wynn comes back, or do you have a decision?
Absolutely. Rob's done an excellent job for us. Continues to hone in on his craft. The way we ask them to do things. He's a great leader in the room. He's great on the field in terms of standard and how we want to work, how we go about our business. He continues to work at his craft and get better. So, the things that Rob has done, I'm pleased with, and we got to keep pushing him to get better. Obviously, that's every day. It's an everyday attack that we have to do with every player.
What's the next step for him?
For who?
Rob.
To continue getting better. That's his next step. Continue getting better. Get better with his hands. Get better with his feet. Get better on his approach. Every guy can do that. I mean, every guy can get better as a player. And so how we run off the ball, how we want to take a pass set, how we want to put our hands on defenders, how we want to approach the block, all that can be better.
Butch, so Teron last week didn't practice, went out, played a great game, which is something that we've seen in the past from him. What is it that allows him to be able to perform at that kind of level without the practice reps?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. Obviously, you have to be able to take care of your body, so that's a premium for him, and it was for last week. But he is a pro's pro in his approach. His preparation is top notch in everything he does. He does everything that we do in terms of walkthroughs and everything like that. He does everything. So all that kind of stuff, he takes the proper approach. And he watches tireless amount of film to put himself in the best position. Obviously, you got a guy who's an experienced player, and that can never be replaced, the volume of experience he has.
A question and a follow-up. I want to make sure I have my facts right. Do you guys have a no knee brace policy for your offensive linemen because it restricts their agility and mobility?
I don't know about that. I guess no need. I've seen guys wear braces before, so I guess that would not fit. But I think the biggest thing is we have to have the mobility to move and do what we need to do, right? So, and we need to play fast. And if we're not playing fast, then we're not doing what we need to do. And so, there might be limits on that with the brace, but I don't know about what you're saying.
I'm not sorry, Dave. So the question would, I guess the knee brace would be diminishing returns for Teron and or Rob Jones from that standpoint, from the mobility agility?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a trainer or a doctor, so that's a tough question for me to answer.
I am. I don't have a third part.
To follow up on that.
Part 3? We got a trilogy going on?
The follow-up on the Teron question about him missing practice. One of the things we've always told offensive line's got to get together. All 5 guys got to get work every day in practice. And yet this line for the past few years has not done that. And you see the pretty good result this year. Is that a fallacy that they have to play, or obviously you'd like it, but what allows these guys to work together to this degree without practice?
Well, I think that anytime I think it's the whole room, the environment of the whole room that you're, number one, creating an environment that there's great communication with everyone. So when you do have somebody else playing, you don't feel like there's a drop off in at least communication. Maybe obviously there's a full spectrum of level of play, and but the standard expectations about how we do our job and how we communicate and how we do everything has to be throughout the whole room. So to answer it about the room, that it starts there. If we have a room that's connected that way through coaches, through players, player to player, coach to coach, coach to player, player to coach, the whole gamut, we can have good chemistry. Right. And so obviously the more times that guys do spend next to each other, the more comfortable you are. Maybe the less verbal communication you need to make and more nonverbal communication can happen because you know them so well, just like any relationship that we all have. The less I talk to somebody that I've known for a long time, they know how I'm thinking a lot of times. And so obviously there's all those things that factor, but it starts with the whole room. It's not just the 5 guys that are playing.
Coach, with Brewer, we've obviously seen the impact his physical skills have had for you guys, but I'm curious how you would describe his impact when it comes to mic points and front identification and pass protection communication.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that he's really owned it. And I would say probably in the last 6 to 8 weeks, he's really taking it to another level, right? And so anytime you come from someplace else, there's a learning curve in terms of what is the nomenclature and how do we get that all communicated all the time so that we're all on that same page. And so obviously we had to do quite a bit of one-on-one time originally to get him to that point, but now it's at a point where he's completely owning it and he can orchestrate it now. And even if there's a look that we get in a game that has not been seen or scouted, it's an unscouted look, they've something that we've never seen, he's like, I got it. All right, and then we get to the sideline, we communicate. I may say, hey, I think there may be a better way to do this, all right, than that, or I want you to go do this. Okay, we talk through it, boom, we move, and then he adjusts it. And so from a starting point, he's in a good place, and then the adjustments, he's done a nice job of getting to quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is Patrick Paul's aptitude to play right tackle now if needed there?
He's working it. He's cross training, and it's good for him. There is a fine line of timing with a younger player and making sure that he's in his best position also at all times, and that he's in a position to be successful when asked to do that. Right. So he's definitely cross training it, and in all aspects, in both right and left, he's getting better.
Going back to kind of what you were saying about the continuity and the whole room being on the same page, what role does Isaiah Wynn play in that as a guy who's been out, but now it's kind of...
Yeah, he's been in there every day. He's done a great job. He's a professional in his approach. And so he's on point. He's got a great relationship with everybody in the room. So he does a great job with that.
How have his practices looked now that you've gotten a couple of weeks of seeing how it could look if he were to be called upon for Isaiah Wynn?
Good, progressing, getting better every day, and he's working his tail off. He's doing a really good job.
Which, at the risk of asking the obvious, as the offense has gone from more of the passing game to more of the running game, how has the duties or the requirements for your offensive linemen changed?
Hasn't.
No more run blocking or nothing?
We haven't had to change anything.
Oh, nope. Kendall Lamb, obviously when you're a 10-year veteran, there's a presence to you. But what has he added to your room now, or actually going back a year?
He is a pro's pro. He is, when you talk about being a professional football player, this guy has got it figured out in terms of that, in terms of his preparation, in terms of his work ethic, in terms of a standard for himself, accountability, standard for within the room, how you approach every meeting, how you approach taking care of your body, how you approach your own time and what you do when you're on your own, how you watch tape, how you approach practice, walk through everything. Everything is great intentionality to put him in the best position to be successful. And, that's a guy like that. What more can you ask from? All right. And anybody, what more can you ask from? And so he's been a great leader in that way. And I can't say enough good things about him.
Did you know coming into this year that he initially thought that this was going to be his last season?
There's been conversation obviously, but I just take it day by day. So.
Are you seeing some significant development in Andrew Meyer, and what are some of the traits that you like about him?
Andrew's a great kid. He's a guy that did a great job throughout training camp, and he's continued to get better every day, right? And he's a guy that he finally kind of like what was good was him and Brew kind of had to grow together with the communication, understanding what we want, how to orchestrate the offense, and so. For a younger guy, he got to really start to grow up quick in terms of that, right? Because him and Brew were doing it together. And so he's a guy that keeps getting better, and I like having him in the room. He's great, and he does take an approach, like a guy like Kendall Lamb has a great influence on him of what it's like to be a pro.